So, folks, under this government, it is now almost clear that they are in the process of Hinduizing the army. Whether it was the mythical figure they put up in Pangsoli, whether it is this 77 feet tall bronze statue of Lord Ram in Goa. And we kind of figured out last many days between Rajnath, Home Minister, and everybody else. We're either talking about the Mahabharata, and now we have this Modi national security policy and extension of Bhagavad Gita. I give up, folks. You better give up too, right? Because what's happening here is people haven't figured out why a soldier would die, right? Why the soldier would die for his country at such a young age. He doesn't die for the reason is he never dies for the country. Neither does he die for the religion. Nor does he die for some people think maybe the Home Minister or the Vishwaguru Prime Minister. No, they don't die for any of this. And they probably don't even die for the Indian flag. The real driving force for 200 years plus has been the regimental spirit. Once you join a regiment, you will not let it down. And the colonel, that's why is the father figure, right? And these soldiers will go to any lengths to protect the colonel. They may not go to any lengths to protect your country, but the colonel, they will go to any lengths for. And currently, through Agniveer and what we are doing, the regimental system is under stress. Hence, the Indian army, or not, whatever they want to call it, the Hindu army, is not going to be able to perform at the levels now needed to beat Pakistan or China. And so, when you have this Operation Sindoor defining moment in counter-terror strategy, says President, a counter-terror strategy to use BrahMos missiles is the end. What else are you going to do? If there is another striker, which there has been, right, the bomb blast here in Delhi, where the minister in Pakistan says it was us, but we've stayed away from calling it an act of terror by Pakistan, haven't we? Now, why is that? Firstly, the rest of the world doesn't believe it, right? Secondly, because what are we going to do? Because we've said the Operation Sindoor is continuing and we'll go, but what are we going to do after the BrahMos assault? We are scared to put our aircraft up in the air. Firstly, we don't have enough of them. And we don't have the kind of satellite systems and information and the web of information needed to counter Pakistan, right? So, here is what we had, Regimental Spirit, written by Lieutenant General Hanut Singh, MVC, and you must understand this. He said, so this was after the 62 war, the government put a psychiatrist in to find out what led to the defeat of 1962, but in isolated places, people fought till the end, right? Some total of his finding was that the army lacked a cause to fight for. His ridiculous and simplistic solution was to project a national political leader as a mother or father figure for whose defense and for protection of whose honor the personnel of the armed forces would willingly sacrifice their lives. After I had told him what I thought of his proposal, which was not very much, I went on to explain to him that the Indian army needed no new cause to fight it, already had a cause and inspiration which had sustained it in battle for 200 years. This inspiration was the regiment. Men had fought and died and won the highest decorations for valor for this cause. The regiment and the regimental spirit are a great heritage. It is this heritage we must nurture, for so long as the regimental spirit lives, so long will the regiment live. So now we've thrown the Agniveer, that's why they're dying by the dozens, and I mean, some of them have lost their lives, and they're not being able to fit in, right? And the problem for now is that it's amazing how many of these retired army officers actually bought this crap that it's the Hindus who keep winning the wars against Pakistan. It's the regiments, there's the Gorkha regiment, the Sikh regiment, the Maratha regiment. It is the regiments and their leadership which imbibes the honor of the regiment that helps us be a cohesive unit of the part of the Indian army, which helps us beat everybody else, right? So this is a very interesting piece written by G.S. Seda, Indian Air Force. He says, what happens to the military ethos after retirement? In the last few days, military WhatsApp groups, Facebook pages, and every veterans forum have been ablaze over the Supreme Court's decision to remove from service a Christian officer who refused to attend religious parades involving faiths other than his own. Enough ink has already been spilled analyzing that decision, but I am not going there. My question is different. What I want to examine is this. These days, how does an officer who followed the army's inclusive secular ethos for 20 to 30 years, suddenly erupt into full-time communal bigotry the day after he hangs up his uniform? Why do some of us retired worthies, me included, almost overnight turn into a most inconsiderate, insensitive, and intemperate version the moment the pension starts hitting the bank account? Are we simply reverting to the bigotry hardwired into us by the very society we come from? The moment we no longer have to brasso our pips? In service, we stood shoulder to shoulder in mandirs, gurdwara, churches, and sarvadham sthals with our troops, because that is what leadership demands. Out of service, we start following WhatsApp university lectures on who invaded whom in the 12th century, the religious practices of other faiths, and why our faith alone is superior. So, were we secular for 30 years or simply supervised? Was the ethos truly internalized or just kept under a lid because the army would never tolerate the real version? Someone rightly said, the uniform may retire, but honor should not. Absolutely. Yes, freedom of expression applies after retirement. Nobody disputes that. But freedom of expression is not freedom from being called out. When one of us trashes the very ethos that once allowed us to lead Jawans from every faith under the sun. If an officer could not afford to be bigoted in uniform because it would break cohesion, why is the same bigotry suddenly worn as a badge of pride out of uniform? What changed? The man or simply the guardrails? I was taught by my seniors the rank will go, the pension will remain, but the ethos you once embodied or pretended to embody follow you everywhere. And if that ethos collapses, the instant the epaulets come off, then the problem was never the uniform. The problem was always the man wearing it. Maybe we are not suddenly becoming big bigots. Maybe we are only catching up what a country that has decided civility was just another uniform. Easy to take off when the cameras are gone and we no longer have to swear to our commanding officers. Today, when society itself rewards the loudest bigotry, the uniform's old guardrails are simply not enough for those who never built inner ones. And here's the part that truly rankles. We trained with them, trusted them, saluted him, and handed over command to him. We even welcomed him into our homes, believing he shared the same values we did, only to discover years later that the secular officer we thought we knew was nothing more than a mask we wore because military discipline demanded it. And the moment the uniform came off, the real man emerged, small, prejudiced, and proud of it. Looking back, I don't know what's worse, that he fooled the army for 3 decades or that we ever mistook his silence for character. Either way, I wish I hadn't opened my door to him, and I certainly won't make the mistake again. Hallelujah. That's what it's really about. And like you said, when this whole thing is happening, our army is in trouble, right? 5 Jawans injured in firing from Myanmar. So Myanmar happens to be trouble. Fresh clashes in Manipur as displaced families defy barriers to go home. And you had all this northeast stuff that you were talking about. Then you have this. SC asks government to regulate user content on internet. Now this Supreme Court new Chief Justice is going to play with our freedom for sure. For sure. So when you have this article by D. Subha Chandran in the Hindu say how Pakistan's judiciary is being undermined. First, sir, apne gareban mein to jaang ke dekho, apne. Just let's look inside our own house. Cabinet approves 7280 crore scheme for rare earth magnets. So it's approving all these schemes. And I know we need this money. But if a lot of that money, the PLIs that we are giving, goes back to the BJP as a bribe or contribution, then it defeats the purpose. So look at this. April 2024, Tata Group donated rupees 758 crore to BJP, largest donation ahead of LS polls. February 2024, Modi government cleared 2 Tata Group's semiconductor units. Government agreed to pay 44,203 crores, which is the 50% subsidy. BJP pocketed 758 crores. Tata got 44,203 crore of public money. That, folks, is a shame. At the end, what we get is this. Tejas safety record best globally, says HAL chief. the world doesn't believe you. Then there are a lot of people going on about Russia, Putin's visit, and it says government to begin purchase of 300 Russian missiles. Let me just tell you, if Russia has any missiles left, that is going to be the real issue. 3 cheers, watch what's coming up.